Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for coming out today for our final summer brown bag session. We are excited to conclude this series. The series theme, as you all know, has been refilling your cup. And we're offering alternative ways other than your traditional therapy to be able to refill your cup and to be able to maintain it. So I'm really excited for y'all to hear our speaker today. I'm going to go back into that in just a second, but I want to say a few more things. I'd like to just conclude this, and thank you to our audience that's online as well. I know that we have many, many, many more people that are online that are here in person, and it's raining here, so you probably didn't have to walk over. Those of you that are online and those of you that are in person, thank you for showing up. I'd like to thank my team just for a great summer. We have our marketing specialist, we have our webmaster. She probably won't like that, probably a web designer, but I'll call her the webmaster. Our AV and tech team, phenomenal team, our administrative team. So thank you all for a great summer. Everything that you all see in front of you, you probably think, oh, it's just a few minutes. No, it takes a lot of work to put this on. So I'd just like to offer that thanks to my team. And feel free to, I think I heard someone clapping, but go ahead, you can clap for them. All right, so for our final session, so I'll tell you a little bit of a backstory. In February, I attended a session, Grand Rounds session, and it was, I think, hosted by the bioethics team. And the title actually piqued my curiosity. The title, it said something about a 55-word story, and I thought, okay, how much can you do in 55 words? So it piqued my curiosity. So I went, and I'm so glad that I did. It's one of the best sessions that I've attended this year. And when we were thinking about the theme for this summer, I thought that 55-word model helped me to find my piece, to just in a small span. I know that you guys are probably saying, okay, Chanel, let her get to it so then we can learn and have this piece as well. But I'm really excited to have Dr. Fogarty with us. Colleen Fogarty is the William, and I'm going to get this wrong, is it Rochester professor and the chair at the University of Rochester School of Medicine and Dentistry and the chief of family medicine at Highland Hospital of Rochester. She practices full spectrum outpatient care for children and adults with a commitment to serving under-resourced families. Dr. Fogarty's scholarship includes empirical and creative work. Her research includes primary care identification and management of mental health conditions, intimate partner violence, and patient-centered communication. Her creative work has been published in numerous journals, and she has received creative writing awards from the University of Rochester and the Family Medicine Education Consortium. She has popularized the writing and use of the 55-word stories in family medicine and introduced this model, the 55-word story column, for the journal Families, Systems, and Health. She spent a portion of her recent sabbatical further developing her creative work and contributions. So please join me with a round of applause for Dr. Colleen Fogarty as she shares with us today.
Thank you so much, Chanel, for that generous introduction. And thanks to all of you who are in the room and with us on Zoom for choosing some time to spend together today. Also want to thank the interpreter team who I know is online and grateful for their work with us. And as Chanel said, I've given a version of this talk in bioethics and medical humanities. And so when Chanel dropped me an email and said, hey, I was in that session, could you do it for psych? I thought, well, yes, that would be lovely. So I'll move to the learning objectives. Oh, actually, sorry. Maybe the learning objectives are not actually on here. I think the learning objectives got put onto the title slide, which is, or the other slide that you saw, which is fine. I'll just briefly review them. We'll talk a bit about creative writing in personal and professional reflection. I'm going to talk a bit about my story. And as I do that, I'm going to encourage you to think about your story. All of us are in healthcare and in human bodies. And so from those experiences, we all have important things that we might wish to capture in writing, we might wish to share, we might wish to keep for ourselves. We'll have a little bit of time to develop a 55-word story, and then we can discuss potential uses of brief narrative writing in training. And as Chanel mentioned, I was really very grateful to have a sabbatical from July 1st through December 31st of 2024. And that gave me a chance to pull out some of the things that I had collected over the years that I had not gotten to a point of polishing and publication. So I'll share some of those things with you. So before I do that, though, I'm going to let you know that one of the things I got to do towards the end of my sabbatical is go to the Schweinfurth Art Center in Auburn, New York. Anybody heard of it or been there? So it's a small gallery. It's not a museum, because I learned the definition of a museum is having a permanent collection. And they're an art center because they have small traveling exhibits. They don't have any permanent collection. But in the December every year, they have an international juried quilt exhibition. I'm a sometimes fiber arts person, certainly not at the level of these artists, but I had the opportunity to visit there, and I'm sharing some of those images with you all today as a different kind of metaphor for stepping back and stepping closer, seeing what you might see. So with gratitude to these quilt artists. So a bit about my journey as a writer. Being a writer was not always a given, and it was something that gradually worked its way into my practice. I hardly recall any details of my high school journey, but I do recall that I wrote an essay for the Veterans of Foreign War essay contest. There was a fairly active chapter of the VFW in my town, and I think the school must have disseminated this and said, you want to enter, you can. And it was called The Voice of Democracy. And it turns out that it still exists today. I cannot find my essay, but if you choose that link online, it takes you to the updated rules of the contest and contest winners and so forth. And it's been around since 1947. So as I thought about that, oops, not there yet, sorry. I found a medal. I was cleaning out some old stuff, and they give you like this little medal that I found a couple months ago, and was pretty excited to think about that. So I was curious what I might have written back when I was a teenager about the voice of democracy, and I would hope that were I to find it, it could give us some maybe inspiration and help with where we sit in the world today. So during medical school, I took a humanities selective, and as part of that work, I wrote some poetry, and you had to choose something to do a report about. So I picked Charlotte's Web and really did a close read to discover how that really could help children work through grief and loss. And now, over the years, writing's a way for me really to reflect on my work, including observing patients, observing myself, and as well as my own internal reactions and feelings about my work. And it helps me really get perspective on the work, and it's probably a way to cope with the demands of being someone's regular doctor. As a family physician, we are people's physician over time. And so even though our visits are short, ideally our time of doctor-patient relationship is long. And so working with patients over time, getting to know them and their context and their stories, there are times it can be heavy to carry, and there are, of course, times that it can be joyful. But either way, thinking about that and reflecting helps me be a better clinician, and it helps me think about the big picture. So just thinking about taking a closer look, if you look at this one, this is sort of the step back picture of the quilt. When you take a closer look, I was completely taken with these zebras. And the artist uses this striped fabric that you can see in various places of the quilt to, I guess, from a bigger perspective, call us to thinking about stripes and zebras. And then when you hone in, you can see the zebras really closely. And even closer. So when we think about patients and ourselves, we think about these contexts where we are. So for me as a doctor, that middle is myself, and myself as a physician, and my physician as self, right? All of us come to our work fully human in our bodies and our hearts and our minds. We can't separate that. And when we're able to take a step back, we can try to integrate that more. Of course, our families of origin, and there have been pieces of my family over the years that have been super important foundationally to me. Thinking about communities that I've lived in, that I've visited, been part of, and then the overall cultural and societal influences. These are all sort of mixed together in all of us, certainly a big part of clinical practice, and the elements that I often find myself reflecting on when I sit back and jot things down. So I'll tell you briefly about the 55-word stories that Chanel mentioned. This was I think about 2008. Family Medicine is the journal of the Society of Teachers of Family Medicine. And for years, they've had a creative feature. And someone published a collection of 55-word stories, and they were recruiting for another column. And I, again, thinking about how Chanel mentioned it, I was fascinated, like, what is this? And I had already been in the habit of taking small pieces of paper and scrawling ideas down or an image or something. And this is before the electronic health record. And I would just put them in the back of this drawer in my clinical desk. They just stayed there. And so thinking about this 55-word story, I thought, wonder if I have something. And so I wrote something down and worked on it. And then I sent it into the journal, which they published. So you can see this one's called Blue Velvet. Bring your meds. He always did, in a blue velvet bag, an elegant offering each visit. Weakness, paresthesias, falling. He couldn't wipe. Cervical stenosis, delays, frustration. Finally, neurosurgery and rehab. Months later, a follow-up visit. He hands me his meds in a crumpled brown paper bag. Where's your blue bag? The hospital threw it away. So that was my first real 55-word story, and I've really did a lot of experimenting and writing with it, sharing it in our departmental writing seminar ever since. I'm going to share with you a couple short ones that have to do with family. Like I mentioned, we all come from a family, and these can be foundational influences. So the first one is a 55-word story that some colleagues of mine got together, and they wrote a book called Connections in the Clinic about their work as therapists and behavioral health professionals working with patients. And at the beginning of each chapter, they wanted a 55-word story. So this is for the chapter on family, and it's called Aunt Peg. The taciturn aunt, no children of her own, taught me pie baking when I was young. Once I bumped the tin, berries scattered everywhere. A scolding, no pie for me. Tears started. Wait. Gathering the berries, she gently washed them, helped reshape the dough. A vivid lesson, perseverance, second chances, and even the importance of forgiveness. The next one that I'll share was something that I worked on over my sabbatical and was recently published in the Journal of the American Board of Family Medicine. This is called The Owl. He's ill, dying really. Metastatic cancer has taken over. He sits in his favorite chair in the beautiful modern home he had designed and built. The enormous windows face east over a wheat field. In the foreground stand tall evergreens, survivors of a previous Christmas tree planting. Visiting one crisp November afternoon, an owl seen in those trees. The owl vigils. Many cultures associate owls with wisdom, warning, and death. Too soon, I returned to my job in another state, leaving my husband behind with his dying father. In my jewelry chest, I spot a pewter pin, a gift from a colleague years before. To keep me connected to my dying father-in-law, I wear this owl. The owl vigils. Several weeks later, while examining a patient, my pin suddenly clatters to the floor. I exclaim, my father-in-law is sick. My patient nods, adding supportive words. We proceed with her examination. Moments later, the medical assistant knocks. The owl vigils. Dr. Fogarty, sorry to interrupt you. It's urgent. Recognizing the number, I return the call. It's my husband. Dad's gone. So just jumping out a little bit to some mindfulness thinking, and these are some of the elements that I have incorporated into my work, not always intentionally. When Ron Epstein and Mick Krasner were developing their mindfulness in medicine program, it was probably maybe 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to participate in an early iteration of a train the trainer course for faculty to teach learners about mindfulness in medicine. And so when I think about the principles of attentive observation, beginner's mind, presence, and critical curiosity, I think about different pieces that I've written, and we'll share some of those with you with that frame. And also back to my quilts, the looking at quilts also, one can experience these attentive observation, beginner's mind, presence, and critical curiosity. And different people have different ways of thinking about it. When we were chatting earlier, Chanel mentioned that for her, it is being near the ocean and that flow of the water, whether she's hearing it on an audio, being present in person, seeing a video, that's a way that she is able to tap those pieces for herself. So hope you don't mind that I shared that. Let's see here. There we go. Oops. Did I skip one? There we go. Attentive observation. So this is a poem that I wrote a few years ago that is out in Medical Humanities. It's called The Rabbit. Just before sundown on Midsummer's night, I set out for work. I've kissed the children, washed the dishes, kissed my spouse. The air is hot, just a bit humid, as I cut through the park. Rounding a bend, I see a man stopped in the path. He's looking intently, gazing down over a knoll. My steps are hurried, focused on my work. I approach and finally see what he sees. A common brown rabbit munching on clover. I slow and quiet my steps so as not to ruin this man's show. Finally, I stop just past the man and join him in gazing at the rabbit. She's munching, focused on her delicious green clover. A breeze kicks up, waving the tree branches over our heads, taking a bit of the humidity away. I close my eyes, breathe, savor the air. This moment, another, with the man, the rabbit, the clover, the breeze. I'm reminded of the gift of slowing down to appreciate the signs of life around me. The grant can wait this moment. So critical curiosity can appear in so many ways in our life and in our work. And I'm going to share an excerpt from a piece that I initially just wrote down because it was on my mind, and then decided to work it and share it for publication. And it's not really necessarily a flattering piece about my critical curiosity in this way, but I do want to share it, and it's published, so I did share it. But to give people a sense that it's not always the critical curiosity and the attentive observation doesn't always find everything well and happy. Sometimes it can be a bit worrisome, or perhaps even some shame can come in. So this one begins. It's called The Guy at Church, and it came out about a month ago in Family Systems and Health. Shortly after Mass began, I noticed him from the corner of my eye. He's a sometimes church attender, usually sitting in the transept off to the side. I attend a downtown church in a small northeastern city. Unhoused persons often attend services for worship, respite from inhospitable weather, and for rest. As a family physician, I observe people trying to imagine their story. Often, for better or worse, my mind goes to diagnostic thinking. Dressed in dingy jeans and an old, comfortable-looking flannel shirt, his face reminds me a bit of my father. Weathered wrinkles and sparkling eyes, his graying hair combed back into a wave. He is quiet, focused on the service. While I cannot discern his age, there's a good chance this gentleman is prematurely aged. Does he live on our downtown streets? Are alcohol and cigarettes at play? These conditions surely contribute to weathering. I'm going to leave that one there out of the interest of time. And if you're curious, I'm happy to share the whole thing with you later. All right. And then just going to beginner's mind. This is another piece from the book Connections in the Clinic that I mentioned before. This is a picture of the cover of that book. This is called Wisdom from Mentors. By now you have entered your cave of fear, wrote a beloved early mentor early in intern year. You think too much, you talk too much, said a visiting Tibetan Buddhist healer. His words gave me pause. As mentor, I aim to listen, reflect, more than diagnose. You know best what you need right now. Last domain is presence. This is a poem that I wrote. Again, this one came out in Family Systems and Health. I don't mean to have only that journal featured, but it is a very good journal. This is one that I wrote when I was practicing in a community health center, and hopefully you'll hear why presence is the piece here. It's called Carry On. A midsummer's day, he comes to consult. Chronic pain, not much relief in sight. I'm sure the cocaine helps, a lifelong friend. I prepare to face his bodily pains with little to offer. This humid day, in the cool blast of our clinic's AC, I find him more hunched, head down more than usual, eyes slightly closed. I slowly sit observing him. His handmade tattoos stand out from his pale skin. Usually a little unkempt, today he's frankly scruffy, unshaven, gaunt, his shoulder blades sticking out. A small glass vial on a thick silver chain lies over his sternum, holding fine gray-white ash. Over a decade with Ivan, I've learned to care more, observe, listen, perceive, and cure less because Ivan eludes cure. I settle onto the low, rolling, backless stool, leaning forward, matching his posture and looking for his gaze. How are you doing? I'm still grieving Mary Lou. Next month will be a year. I scattered her ashes behind the theater where we saw our favorite rock band, had our first date. Over the years, he revealed his deep love for his deceased wife, their shared addiction. In treating his chronic low back pain, I've seen his other pains too. 5 kids, all adopted out. They named the eldest Ivan too. He'd been out of touch with his own father since his eldest child was born. I just found out my dad's got a spot on his lung. He's in the hospital and doesn't look good. Trying to stay in touch on Facebook. I have to go to the library and the computers are so slow. I sighed to myself, rueing the slow library computer, his layers of loss, knowing he's done the best he could. Lyrics from his favorite band murmur to me, "Carry on, my wayward son. There'll be peace when you are done. Lay your weary head to rest. Don't you cry no more." So now we are in good time to move to an opportunity for quiet and for your turn in writing, if you wish. You also could close your eyes and breathe instead. Either way, don't stop breathing. And we'll do about 3 minutes. It's always amazing to me what people can do in 3 minutes. A few prompts, which you can use or ignore as you wish, to write about something that surprised you this week or this month, Write about something you noticed that you might have missed. Write about what's on your mind. You can write. And you can do it if you have a keyboard and a computer, you can do it that way. You can do it with a writing implement and paper. You have about 3 minutes, and the AV team is generously going to put on some very mellow music for us. And after 3 minutes, I'll call us back, and those who wish to say something about the experience will be invited to do that.
If anyone in here needs pen and paper, just raise your hand and Gwendolyn will bring it down. Anyone online, if after you write your story, you like it read aloud, feel free to drop it in the chat and I'll read that for you.
Janelle, you think that's okay? Okay, great. So invite everyone back, and thank you for taking those few moments. And if anyone wishes to share what they wrote, you are welcome to do that. You are not obligated to do that. Guidelines I always offer when in a setting where people might wish to read what they've written is no prefacing. A lot of times people will say, oh, this isn't very good, or I'm not really a writer, or all of those things. This is really wherever you are. If you want to share your words, we would love to hear them. We'd ask you to read slowly so people can lock in on what you're saying. And if you're able and willing to read it twice, just because with 55 words, sometimes hearing it the second time, you pick up other pieces. And whenever I'm doing this in a workshop format, we set up the stage that people in the room aren't giving feedback about the writing or speaking to that. They're really, if they wish to say something, the impact on themselves. So that allows there to be, the space needs to be safer. I know there's 100 people on Zoom, or a lot of people, so that may not feel as safe. And of course, you don't have to participate, but hopefully you'll be able to hear words from others who might wish to share. And if you're on Zoom, definitely, as Chanel said, you're welcome to put it in the chat and she can read on your behalf.
So we'll ask for volunteers inside the auditorium here. Just raise your hand, and I think Carrie has the microphone, or Sean. They're running them to you.
I met a man intubated with part of his brain dead. His heart is fine, but his mind is gone forever. Mm-hmm. He's medically alive, surrounded by family, surrounded by love. What is the purpose of life? Having a heart beating? Having a mind to think? Or having a soul to worship?
Thank you. Would you be willing to say your name and reading it through a second time? That would be great. Thank you so much.
Yanira Ochoa.
Danita Ochoa?
Yanira.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure. I met a man intubated with part of his brain dead. His heart is fine, but his mind is gone forever. He is medically alive. What type of life is this? Surrounded by family, surrounded by love. What is the purpose of life? Having a heart beating? Having a mind to think? Or having a soul to worship?
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Someone else? Excellent. Thank you so much. And if you wouldn't mind saying your name first, that would be great.
Rushnan, I am from the engineering quad, so here it goes. A reply from a high school friend a decade later brought in a nostalgia kick which photos could never elicit. Excited to hear from him, but curious why it took so long. In an age when pigeons are just a click away. Regardless, I choose to savor the present and entertain the curious cat later.
Wonderful. Can you read it through one more time? Thank you so much.
Sure. A reply from a high school friend, a decade later, brought in a nostalgia kick which photos could never elicit. Excited to hear from him, but curious why it took so long in an age where pigeons are just a click away. Regardless, I choose to savor the present and entertain the curious cat later.
Thank you so much.
I know a couple of people are trying to put things in the Q&A.
Wonderful.
And nothing is coming through, but we do have one that was able to get through.
Okay, wonderful.
So this is dealing with not quite being an empty nester. One leaves Saturday. Other is graduated, but not moved on yet. Trying to remain calm, not to nag. I'm praising his room cleaning. Happy he's doing something constructive. Do you ever stop worrying about your kids? Feel like I'm in limbo, waiting for a major change. And I can read it a second
That'd be
time.
great. Yes, thank you.
Dealing with not quite being an empty nester. One leaves Saturday. Other is graduated, but not moved on yet. Trying to remain calm, not to nag. I'm praising his room cleaning. Happy he's doing something constructive. Do you ever stop worrying about your kids? Feel like I'm in limbo, waiting for a major change.
Thank you so much.
And we have a couple more that have come through.
Wonderful.
Tears. She ducks into the hallway out of his view. He doesn't know it's bad. Bowed head. We just buried my mom. Now this. I can't do it again. Can't bring him home. It'll be hospice then, but I need to talk with my brother. A shuddering sigh. He's been a good dad. And I'll read that again. Tears. She ducks into the hallway out of his view. He doesn't know it's bad. Bowed head. We just buried my mom. Now this. I can't do it again. Can't bring him home. It'll be hospice then, but I need to talk with my brother. A shuddering sigh. He's been a good dad.
Thank you so much.
And the next one, anger and pain, care management program. My body aches all over and I call off sick at work. I need solitude and time to heal. However, I think of all the individuals on my caseload who are angry about hurting and needing the things I once lacked. I want to be healthy. I want to be compassionate, but instead I'm angry about not being as helpful as I thought I would be. I want to carry their burdens to make it hurt less. I'm angry at the world and can't point out why. Our pain is the same. The second time, anger and pain, care management program. My body aches all over and I call off sick at work. I need solitude and time to heal. However, I think of all the individuals on my caseload who are angry about hurting and needing the things I once lacked. I want to be healthy. I want to be compassionate, but instead I'm angry about not being as helpful as I thought I would be. I want to carry their burdens to make it hurt less. I'm angry at the world and can't point out why. Our pain is the same.
Thank you so much.
Do you have a few moments for another?
Sure. How many do you have there?
It looks like 2 more.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone.
Anyone in the room? Would anyone in here? Okay. I was surprised by seeing good in him. I'm sorry, just a second. I lost my spot. I was surprised by seeing good in him. After days, weeks, and months of tense interactions and terse conversations, I turned my head and there was tenderness. He is the same as he's always been, but my eyes were new and my heart could perceive what had been tucked behind the curtain all along. I was surprised by seeing good in him. After days, weeks, and months of tense interactions and terse conversations, I turned my head and there was tenderness. He is the same as he has always been. But my eyes were new, and my heart could perceive what had been tucked behind the curtain all along.
Wonderful. Thank you.
The next one, a desire, making an impact like ripples in still water. How can one person set the world free? Excitement balances with overwhelm. I'm here to make a difference in any way that I can. This purpose feeds my soul, nourishing the endless swell of love. Believing is the first and most important step. It's from Rebecca Atwell. And I'll read it again. A desire, making an impact like ripples in still water. How can one person set the world free? Excitement balances with overwhelm. I am here to make a difference in any way that I can. This purpose feeds my soul, nourishing the endless swell of love. Believing is the first and most important step. And then we've gotten one more that wants to sneak in.
Wow, this is great.
Poem, a new worker hoping to improve and collaborate. Group announcement of only his changes and intention to eradicate. Lack of questions, showing ill intentions. Simply forcing intervention, not insightful about his inattention to the staff who are fully invested. Jarring us and our patient, both in different methods. And I'll read it again. Poem, a new worker. So it's a poem. A new worker hoping to improve and collaborate. Group announcement of only his changes and intention to eradicate. Lack of questions showing ill intentions. Simply forcing intervention, not insightful about his inattention to the staff who are fully invested. Jarring us and our patient, both in different methods.
Wonderful. Thank you all so much. I'm curious if there's anyone participating on Zoom or in person who has any comment, either what it was like for you to have those couple of minutes, or what you may have heard from someone who shared their work, or the process so far. Please, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So my exposure to journaling is just lots of writing in pages. So I was a little skeptical when you said 55 words, and I was wondering if it would do my thoughts and other people's thoughts justice. But as I, especially like the empty nester and some of the other ones that I heard, I could actually live through that feeling in those few seconds. So I think journaling many pages versus creative journaling, I think it helps in different ways, but I don't have the words to explain what that even means.
Thanks for that comment. You know, I really appreciate you using the word skeptical. I don't think you're the only one who's ever had that wondering. And I remember I did a national workshop a bunch of years ago, and one of the people in the room, I mean, everybody comes, you know, voluntarily, right? Nobody's forced to be there and nobody's forced to write. And this participant wrote a story about his skepticism. It was so cool. You know, he starts with, she says 55, I'm skeptical. And then he writes about the writing. It was the most wonderful thing to see that, that person just kind of went in for the moment and started moving his writing implement. And it was really fun. So just to say that you're not alone. And thanks for that reflection. And I agree that those, I'm always impressed with, how many minutes and how many words and the gut punch that we can catch from that. Anyone else want to say anything?
I have a comment from online. I hear hurt, pain, sadness, some joy, and which I can relate to as well.
Yes, 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 definitely.
Another comment. Beautiful writing about seeing softness in someone after a period of time where they are hardened / difficult. That is a lot of what I experience with my patients, and it is so rewarding to see the shift in them.
Thank you. The other thing I'll say about 55 words from the perspective of writing, for me, it did a couple things. When I found the form early on, part of me was, of course, skeptical, but also, well, how hard can that be? 55 words, right? You know, you could start. And over time, really realizing that when I'm looking to share out, publish, et cetera, like looking at every word, how every word becomes critical. And that's informed my longer form creative writing as well as scientific writing. It's like, well, do I really need that word? So in a funny way, doing this super short form has made me a better writer in all the other areas that I write in. So it's been really interesting to see that process play out. Any other comments so I can move towards wrapping up? Really appreciate, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, one
Sorry.
thing I noted when I did it is I was also conscious of other people. You know what I mean? Like usually in journaling, you kind of focus on yourself and your own train of consciousness, you know. But when I was writing, I was also conscious that I had to connect with others.
Do you mean connect with others through that moment, or if you were going to share it?
Through an app I was going to share.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Thank you for sharing that. All right. So I will move towards closing. We already shared the story. This is another view of that same quilt. These are two books that I have used with, they've been really super helpful. I don't know if folks know Annie Lamott. She's really something else. She's wonderful. And this book, Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing and Life. It's her book about writing. And she writes in her very pithy way. My favorite part of this, I think it's chapter 1, is called Shitty First Drafts. Excuse the language, but it's been helpful over time for me because striving for that word is not that hard. So, and her point is the only purpose of a first draft is that it be written. And so that, again, is very freeing to just think, okay, I have to do this thing. I'm going to put something there, and then I can keep working with it. And then William Zinsser this is more of a, I would say, technical book around writing nonfiction, but I think it applies to fiction and essay. It's just a good technique book. And then one other thing I was going to mention in terms of that attentive observation, I just started reading Amy Tan's book, A Guide to Backyard Birds. And I don't know if you know her work, but she's written a bunch of sort of long form novels, often set either in China or with people who've migrated from China. She's a wonderful writer. And she wrote this book about her backyard and her habit of watching birds, and there's sketches in it. And each chapter is tiny. And just to think about her as a writer, taking this time during the day to look at the birds and then draw the birds. It's just a different experience of thinking about observation and creativity and writing. And oh, here's one more. I forgot that was going to come up. If You Want to Write by Brenda Ueland. This is an older book, and this book is written as if she's having a conversation with you. So it feels very personal and very kind of encouraging, uplifting. These are some of the pieces that I read to you and the places that you could find them if you wish. And we just have a few minutes. People probably have something to do at 1 o'clock, but I'm happy to take comments. And these are some of the other things that I wrote during sabbatical. Yes, please.
We'll bring the mic so online folks can hear as well.
Loud enough. So with journaling, in your clinical practice, at least for me, when I'm journaling, it helps me take thoughts out of my system. That's why I started doing it during the pandemic.
Wonderful.
But later on, it became more of like a time capsule where I could go back and relive a moment, something that might have been 10 seconds long, but the feelings were like a year long, so I could go through it. Is that also applicable with these 55-word stories? Do you see your patients go back, and is it also therapeutic when they read through it? Do you see that in your practice?
So, it's a good question. I have not done this with patients. I mean, I have offered people the chance to, do their own journaling, or sometimes people will, with somebody who's having a prolonged grief, they might write a letter to the person that has died that they're missing. But I don't ask to see those. Occasionally somebody will bring it, but it's not a routine part of my practice. But as you were asking, I was thinking about it for myself, and I don't make a habit of going back to read things, except, as I said, I had this drawer full of like little pieces of paper, and every once in a while I pull those out, see what's there, and see if I can move it to a different space. But as I was reading this, the long poem about Ivan, I mean, I could feel myself in the chair with him and see him with the ash. I mean, that is so vivid. So to your point about it being a time capsule and bringing the writer back to that place, in the same way you talked about feeling the people that shared, feeling their experience right through that. It's similar, putting myself right back there again and thinking, what was I thinking and how was I feeling and how did I get to the place where it was good enough for me to be present with Ivan and realize I couldn't fix him.
We have a question that came through. In reflecting on your own work, do you have a favorite piece? Thank you for sharing.
Wow. Do I have a favorite piece? No. That's a great question. I think, do I even have a favorite part of the whole thing? I think it's, can you tell me your name again? The person you just spoke again, sorry. Rushnan. What Rushnan just said about that time capsule is really thought-provoking. And I think what you said earlier too about like getting the things out of my head, that's one of the most important things. And then, why do I bother to sort of pick it up and write about it? I mean, that's another whole question, but I think we learn from each other when we share our stories. And so I've taken a lot of, I guess, comfort and inspiration and hope when I've read the creative writing of other folks in healthcare. So family medicine has a narrative section where they'll do poetry, short essay, 55-word stories. Journal of the American Board of Family Medicine publishes some. Everybody probably knows JAMA has A Piece of My Mind, which is a longer, well, they probably limit it at 1,000 words, super high bar. I submitted there a long time ago. Of course, it didn't get accepted. But the thing I like about JAMA is they reject really fast. So like within days that they're not interested, which is fine. But I think the idea of all of us learning from those moments with each other, I think it just can help us stay connected to our own selves, stay human, ideally make us better connected to patients or colleagues. That was a good question, though. What's my favorite one? I have to think about it more.
The next question, are you sharing the PowerPoint with us? Will you share the PowerPoint with us for the citations at the end? If you are okay, I'm happy. Sure. If y'all online reach out to me, Chanel Anderson, or Office of CCCA, I will happily share the information with you.
Absolutely, yeah. And the second slide was the things I had written on sabbatical. Some of those are written in Pulse, Voices from the Heart of Medicine, which is online. And so there's web links with all of them. And they're like really short vignette, not shorter than 55 words, but they're narrative in under 400 words. There's a bunch of those too that I didn't read.
And in our last few minutes, I have a comment myself. I'm not a big fan of quieting myself to be mindful.
Yeah.
But when I learned this process, I found that I was being mindful and taking the time to just listen to what's going on, my feelings, and then just the
Yes.
fact of helping to narrow it down to 55 words helped me just be mindful and recognize where I am in the world. So thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing this information with us. Thank you. I'm sorry, are there any other questions? I'm feeling like it's a private conversation. Doesn't look like there's anything else online either, but thank you, Dr. Fogarty, for
Thanks,
coming
everybody.
here and sharing this information with us. I have a feeling folks will be reaching out to you. She's here at the University of Rochester, but I'm happy to share her contact information for those of you that are interested in furthering your discussion or having her come back or speak in another forum. So please join me with a round of applause for Dr. Colleen Fogarty.
Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thank you all for joining us this summer, and we'll see you next year.
And remember your evaluation so you can claim your CME credit. So much.